Hi everyone. Tonight I've got with me Jaimie Campbell, and we've just been having a little bit of a chat about, life for you as a young person, and living through like anorexia. Like I've lived through it myself, and I seriously know how hard that situation is, where your mind is seeing something completely different to what you really are. It's like that's the one thing that I remember. No matter what people would say to me, I'd always go like, wow, look at me, I'm so fat. But I'd be like, I think I got down to 4 stone.
Okay.
So, well, that's the old scale. That's shown age now. I know. But, whatever that is, someone can convert that, can't they? So let's look at like your story. And it wasn't some time until you realised where that all came from for you, was it?
Yeah, I wouldn't acknowledge it for many years of where my anorexia and bulimia stemmed from.
So it started when you were 7, when you were sexually abused. Do you think was the catalyst like that set you off?
I can now acknowledge that, yes, but for many years I didn't. It was like the anorexia and bulimia was mine, and I didn't want it to be the person, that other person's.
Mm-hmm.
And to associate the two meant that it wasn't mine anymore.
Right, I get that.
Yeah.
So for you, do you want to start off when you were 7? Like what happened in life for you?
I was sexually abused for a long period of time, and then my parents kind of picked up on something, and but I denied it. Like I was so kind of scared of what would happen, and then it stopped because that person stopped coming to our house because of my parents.
And did it happen over how many years for you? Like with that?
A bit over a year.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's a long time. It's 7.
Yeah, and then I started to throw my food out in year 4 at school. And I had no idea what was going on, and one of my teachers picked up on that and spoke to my mum, and I suppose they caught it at that point before it got too serious, and I was so young then that I was worried about the consequences, and I didn't understand it, and so I kind of went back to a regular eating pattern, and then when I was 13 I was properly diagnosed, so it took quite a period of time to...
So were you kind of, throwing your food out and not eating meals and skipping stuff for that whole period of time?
No, so it was just, it started, throwing food out at school, and then mum kind of got wind of it and spoke to me about it, and then I think I was a little bit fearful of what she might do, so I was like, okay, like you've got to get back on track, and then when I went into around year 7 that it started again.
So how did you, what was the first thing that happened for you that you actually started to notice?
I didn't really notice though, that's the thing, like it kind of overtook me in a way that I wasn't aware of it, and I think that's what is so interesting and difficult about anorexia and bulimia, is that you don't notice it, like it's kind of like a creature on your back that you're not aware is there. So, but it was when I started to get comments about my, losing weight, and other people noticed, and then that's when I noticed, but I was still in denial about having an issue. And, it was kind of, everybody, I suppose, talks about eating disorders as food and a physical illness, but I think that's such a misconception, because it's a mental illness, and food is a symptom, and weight is a symptom, and that's kind of what everybody focused on for me, and I think that I would have got better a lot earlier if people focused on my mental illness and not my physical, the physical side of it.
So did you talk to your mum about the abuse?
No.
Never? Or...
No. Still to this day we don't really talk about it. Like I think that I wanted to protect my family so much that I didn't tell them anything.
And what about... So when you were losing weight, did you wear like the loose clothing and, how you disguise it and
yeah,
no one really knows? And so what sort of weight did you get down to?
Is that okay if I don't mention
Yeah, yeah,
it? Just
yeah,
because I don't want
absolutely.
it to be triggering for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
totally. So you've lost the weight, you're wearing the loose clothing, you're how old at this age?
Well, it kind of really kicked in again in year 7, and then it was in year 8 that I left school halfway through because I was having more hospitalisations than I was being at school, and the doctors said to my mum, you know, you need to take her out of school and focus on getting her well. So when my mum left work and became my full-time carer, and
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, and you know, I spent months at a time. I think the longest stint, well, I was 8 months in hospital being tube fed, and this was as a teenager. And then and you know, my mum, we realised that the hospital wasn't working for me after about 6 or 7 admissions, and mum tube fed me at home for a while as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would have been heartbreaking for your mother. I mean, I know as a mother what that would have been like for me had I have had to do that with my own child.
Yeah.
And I do remember my father even talking to me about, you know, like trying to convince me it's a good idea to eat.
Yeah.
You know, like, eat, you'll feel better. But, you know, it doesn't matter what anyone says to you. It's all about here,
Yeah.
what's going on in your head, you know. So, did you have close friends that you'd talk to, or?
I spoke to my friends more than I spoke to my family. But again, like it kind of silences you. Like, I think that an eating disorder, it's kind of like that hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Like it won't let you, it silences you. You can't hear other people's opinions or concern because you're just so overtaken by it, and you can't see what it's doing to your life. So yeah, even though I did have friends that I would talk to and they would express their concerns, I didn't see that I had an issue.
So because I know there'll be a lot of mums out there tonight watching this show.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, I mean, we all have different opinions, but in your opinion, what should a parent look for? What is a telltale sign, or what's something that could generate a bit of concern that they would say, oh, I might keep an eye on her?
Yeah, I think isolating. I mean, there are the physical signs, but also, the mental signs of depression and, a lot of anxiety. And there are so many kind of triggers that you could pick up on, but it's not the same for everybody either. So that's kind of it's quite a hard question for me to answer as such, as like a specific kind of thing. But yeah, I think that just any kind of change that is abnormal to the female or male, because males get eating
So
disorders
to look
as well.
out for that. So
Yeah.
if a parent suspected something, and I know everyone is different, so if a parent was suspecting something, what would be your advice to them, considering what you've been through? I'm not saying that everyone is the same, it's not textbook stuff here, but what would a parent, in your opinion, what would be one thing that they could do? What would be the first move that they should make? Should they talk to the child about it? Should they talk to a doctor about it? Or what would you think if you had a daughter right now going through this? What would be the one thing that you'd do first off?
I would definitely talk to her, because I think that eating disorders feed on secrecy. So I think that sometimes they need to be called out, but in a way that doesn't put guilt onto the person. And that's one thing that I think even medical professionals get fixated on, is that the person is the illness. And I don't agree with that, because then it just perpetuates another behaviour, you know what I mean? If you've got somebody that skips a meal and then they feel guilty about it, it perpetuates another behaviour. So to separate themselves from the illness, they need other people to do that as well. And I think also speaking to a medical professional, but in my experience, medical professionals aren't always right. And, you don't lose 20 kilos overnight. So if you know your child, so if you think that something's wrong, don't take no for an answer with a medical professional.
Right, so just pursue it until you get the right answers and the
Yeah.
right help that's acceptable for your situation.
Yeah.
That, you can make a difference that way.
Yeah.
So if, so for you spent a lot of time in hospital. How did you go with your schooling?
I didn't so I left halfway through year 8, and then I got well again around the age of 18. and I went back to TAFE, and I hadn't had any schooling from year 8 onwards, and then I did my HSC in 1 year at TAFE. And I just excelled that year. You know, I got the second highest ATAR, and I was so proud of myself that year. And
Wow.
I moved away to university, and that's when the eating disorder kicked in again.
So were you kind of isolated then because you'd gone to uni? Were you living on campus? Or?
I was living on campus. I think I was isolated. I was... other stresses in my life. I think that, you know, I maybe relied on the home environment too much, and I found it all a little bit overwhelming.
So did you catch on that something was happening, or was that something that you didn't realise what was going on, or did you have an inkling that, oh no, I'm getting into that situation again?
In hindsight, I knew that there was something going on, but I was in denial still. And it was like as I said, like eating disorder silenced people, so I couldn't reach out for help. It's like it had me in chains, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't. But that's when I moved to Sydney that I met an amazing psychologist that I still see today. And you know, I'm very lucky to have a great team of people around me that did help me.
So it's important to have a great team, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
so that everyone works together for the benefit of your welfare.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got to find that person that you connect with, such as a psychologist,
Yeah.
psychiatrists, counsellors, that sort of thing, and medical professionals.
Yeah.
So, what did you study at uni?
Social work, but I got too unwell to continue. So I ended up in the cardiac ward at RPA, and I had to defer. And at that point, I was going in for weekly admissions because my potassium and you know, all of my electrolytes were at the critical range, really, that I had to have.
So the
infusions.
cardiac ward for heart failure?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then about a year and a half later, I was in ICU because it just got to the point where, like, my doctor, I've been seeing him for since I was diagnosed, and he's incredible. Like, I will never see anybody else. And but he said to me the last time that I saw somebody's potassium that low, they had a heart attack. So I just got to the point where I was so unwell I couldn't function day to day.
How old were you then?
22, 23 when I was admitted to cardiac ward, and then around 25 in ICU.
Wow, so how long did that period last for you?
Probably from the age of 20 to around 25.
So then you turned 25.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
27.
Wow, that's only a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. So then you're 25, so how did you manage to get over that hurdle and get to where you are today?
I think I know that I had to do the work, but I couldn't have done it without my psychologist, my psychiatrist, and, you know, support around me. I wouldn't be where I am today without them, and their non-judgment, the fact that they kind of broke down my barriers and I got to trust them. I wouldn't be where I am today without them. And, you know, my family have been incredibly supportive, and, you know, I had to move home for a while because I was too unwell, and, you know, I got to a point where I was on 240 laxatives every day, and I would steal the laxatives because I couldn't afford them.
What?
And, yeah.
240 laxatives a day?
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
A couple of years. Yeah.
Wow. And like you say, how did you get that many of them?
I would shop around the chemist, or, you know, I'm ashamed of it now that, you know, I would steal them at times because I couldn't afford the addiction.
That's just incredible.
Yeah.
Is that was the one? Wow, I just find that incredible. That's just amazing that we can get, you know, in that format that we think that that's okay.
Yeah.
Like doing that.
Yeah.
So now, like, okay. So now you've got to the stage where you're working and life's good for you.
Yeah.
And what sort of work are you in now?
I work with kids that are in residential care, so they've been removed from home and their needs are too high for foster care. And yeah, I was in management for a while, and now I work on the front line with the kids, and it is challenging work, but it's very rewarding. And you know, this is the first full-time job I've held down, and yeah, I don't know, I'm proud of myself.
You should be proud of yourself.
Thank
That's
you.
incredible. You know, especially to work in an environment that could possibly have a few little memories attached to your own world.
Yeah.
You know, so have you ever had anyone come in that's had an eating disorder?
No. I haven't worked with anybody with an eating disorder, but we can't disclose that anyway.
Yeah,
you know, the kind
absolutely.
of the confidentiality.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't worked with anybody.
I just think you're incredible to actually live through,
Thank you.
to be here, to be alive,
Yeah.
you know, and so you've surrounded yourself with beautiful people obviously in your life, like good girlfriends.
Oh, I have amazing friends. I am so lucky to have the people in my life that I do. You know, I have a very supportive family and lifelong friends, and you know, I have an amazing partner that I'm in love with, and yeah, I am very, very lucky.
Well, that makes a difference to life, doesn't it, when you've got the beautiful
Yeah.
people around you and people that believe in you and,
Yeah.
you know, create that positive atmosphere for you.
Yeah, and you know, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Yeah, and that's
So,
important, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you feel strong now?
Yeah, I do.
You feel good within yourself and know that you can handle it now? And
Yeah, I think there's always a fear that, you know, because I did kind of revert back into it a number of times, there's always that fear there, but I know that I'm strong, and I know that I can overcome it, and I know the warning signs, and I'm so aware of the illness now that I will never let it get that far again.
And do you think that that's like a saving grace, that you actually know what your warning signs are?
Yeah.
You know, that you have like little trigger points that that when you feel that or see that, or, and I know that I'm reminded by it myself, because I might cook something and I don't really feel like it, and I'll scrape it into the garbage bin, into the recycled garbage bin. That sometimes that can trigger off a memory.
Yeah.
And I'll just be very aware that, oh, what am I doing? Whereas I would never think about that in the past.
Yeah.
Because I know that I've lived through it, I've gained that strength, I'm never going back there. But it's just that little thing that I'll go to do and it'll just trigger a memory.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like how we have, you know, certain smells in that we can go somewhere and we can smell a flower or something and it'll trigger a memory, you know. So it's about gaining strength as you go along, isn't it, to pull through and to know that you can do it.
It is, and I think like my family will always have fear as well. Like even now, if I'm unwell and you know if I've got the flu and I don't have an appetite, Mum's like, "Oh, are you eating?" And or if you know I've got diarrhea, Dad's like, "Are you on those laxatives again?" I'm like, "No, it's fine." Like
Is
you
it
know,
real?
yeah. I think that they'll always have that fear, but that's because you know they've lived through it with me.
Yeah.
It's really an illness that affects the family.
Have you got siblings?
I do. I have 2 brothers. Yeah.
So they've lived through it with you. Are they younger or older?
8 and 10 years older.
Okay, so they lived through it with you.
Yeah, to an extent. Like my brother that's 8 years older, he's been incredible, and he would, you know, visit me in hospital, and yeah, he was really supportive and just said to me, you know, anytime you need anything, let me know. And I love him and I look up to him.
So now do you eat really healthily? Like,
Oh, sometimes, but you know, other times I don't. Like you know, like there are times that I'll eat healthier than others, and I think that it's something that will, you know, always be in the back of my mind. But as I said, I'm just stronger than it, and you know, I do have natural curves, and I've kind of come to a place of acceptance with that, and
embracing that,
Yeah.
the womanly body.
yeah,
You know, that's what it's all about. We don't have to be stick insects
yeah,
to be beautiful. We are who we are. And, you know, it's really important, I think, for women to embrace, and men, you know, to embrace who you are and to love you. And, hey, we've all got bumps and lumps in places we don't want, but, you know, says who? You know, says who? Who says that you have to be this particular shape? You know, if we're all exactly the same, and, you know, Barbie dolls and Ken dolls, like,
yeah,
it'd be like so robotic living in a life like that.
yeah. Well,
So we've all got to have all different shapes and lumps and bumps, and, you know, embrace who we are and love who you are. And I think it's important too that if you're feeling a little bit kind of like on the way of saying, well, no, I'm not going to eat that because, I want to lose weight, and deny yourself of certain things, and maybe you get a little bit carried away with it. And if you have any fear at all, that, go and seek some assistance. Or even if you talk to a girlfriend. I know I've said this before about, you've got to have that friend or that group of girlfriends or guy friends, that you can feel safe with and know that what you're saying to them is going to stay within the group. But also I think you've got to have a trusting kind of person that if you're feeling fearful and you know that you're fearful that maybe things are changing a little and it might be a little bit out of your hands, and I think you should go and talk to someone and not be afraid to do that, even if it's a false alarm. Like it's about embracing who you are and loving who you are. But also too, if you're concerned about a girlfriend or a guy friend, that you're noticing things like that, go and talk to them, because that's one thing that you said that you think's a great idea from your perspective. Well, I too think that that's a great idea. If you feel that there's any sort of situation where you've noticed something with a friend or a family member or a sibling, that maybe it's time to actually just go and sit with them nicely and talk to them about it, and see if you can offer some sort of assistance or just help them in some way, even if it's just to listen, because there'll be something connected to that behaviour. And they may not want to talk to you about that situation, but they can talk about, like you said, it's not, what was the wonderful thing that you said? It's about, it's not the anorexia that is the thing. It's something, how did you put that? I wish I could rewind and replay, because it was just so wonderful what you said, but everyone's seen it tonight. Sorry, because we've done...
No, I don't even know which part you're talking about.
Oh, what, I love it. So, if you wanted to give a message, all right, just say right now, there's someone out there watching tonight, and maybe they've been through it before, but they didn't actually... I know you're a bit unwell.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry, sweetie. She's a bit unwell. She's still made it for the interview. What a trooper, what a warrior. There's someone out there right now and they're watching tonight's show. And maybe they themselves might be thinking that there's something going on, or it might be a little bit out of control, or maybe they're just not quite sure, because that's half the battle, is actually saying to yourself that there is something wrong.
Yeah.
Admitting to yourself that there is something wrong.
Yeah.
So, what sort of a message would you give someone in that position right this second? And what sort of a message would you give a mum, a sister, a good girlfriend, someone like that that's out there watching tonight but may suspect that there's something going on with a friend? So if you can just look at the camera down there and do a message of hope to someone out there.
I think that one of the main things is that you are not your illness. That helped me a lot. I had to separate myself from the illness to take away guilt and shame about it. And surround yourself with people that love and accept you, because you're not going to learn to love and accept yourself in isolation. And I think for a mother or a friend, sometimes you don't have to have all the answers, but it's just sitting in the discomfort with that person, because they are very isolated, and sometimes they just need somebody there in that silence with them.
That's great. And I hope that, that if there is someone out there that's watching tonight's show and they are going through this, that I know it can be hard sometimes to even take that step.
So hard, yeah.
Because, a lot of the time, you seriously don't think that there's anything wrong. Because, I know I was that thin, but when I looked in the mirror, like I said before, I looked so much bigger, because that was my mind playing games. So, don't be afraid to go and ask for help or to tell someone. That's the biggest thing. Or even, ring Lifeline. There's a lot of support groups out there that's available to you. Find some organisation, you know, go on the web and have a look around and find somewhere that you can contact and talk to someone. And Lifeline's a great start, you know, like just get online and talk to someone, get on the phone and talk to someone. If you have to remain anonymous, that is so cool, because you know what? You're taking the very first step to changing things in your life. And that is an amazing thing for anyone.
And there is the Butterfly Foundation.
The Butterfly Foundation,
which
yes.
is all about eating disorders. So they've got telephone counselling, web counselling and face-to-face counselling.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So the Butterfly Foundation.
Yeah.
Okay, look it up on the web, find it, make the call and get some help. So, you know, I just hope that someone out there, if they are watching, that, you know, this program has been some sort of help for them. And, you know, I just want to thank everyone for also supporting me in what I do. And, you know, I'm living the dream. I'm actually living the dream. And I hope that someone out there is assisted to do something to change their life and, you know, make such a great change that, you know, in time they themselves can be able to help others, like you do in your work. You know, like that must be a great feeling to know that you've gone through all what you've gone through and here you are, you're there for others now today. You know, that must be just so fulfilling and wonderful in life.
Yeah.
So, Auntie Mel, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this show. Sharon Sharp, Susie Giorgino, Mandy McDonald, Georgina Harry. Thank you, Georgina. Like every week you tune in, and I just love you for the fact that you support me as you do. Thank you so much, Georgina. Karina Dendel, thank you so much. Gary Bentley. Now, Gary Bentley was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and an amazing interview too. Joanne Haskew, Lee Trimble, thank you. Chris Rourke, well, hopefully I'm going to be seeing you in the new year, because we are going to be doing a show with you as well. So, Chris, thank you for tuning in. Reese Livermore, thank you so much. Annette Rains, thank you. Amber Jane Sterling, thank you. Lainey Jarrett, thank you. Christine Cowan, Shireen Lowe, Larry Lowe. Kat Townsend, thank you so much, all the way up there in Queensland, like far north Queensland. And Shay Rogers, thank you so much. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, everyone else. I mean, there's so many of you. I'd be here for the next week until the next show, you know, thanking everyone. So thank you to everyone for being a part of my world and allowing me to bring to you these wonderful, wonderful warriors in life. You know, they are amazing people. So, you know, from me, I say good night and thank you, and know that you guys are going to be okay. So, you know what? Get help if you need it. And thank you. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.